All right, we'll call this meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I need a motion to adopt the agenda. Moved by Duge, supported by Gillette. Please vote. It's Gillette. Let's just clarify this once and for all. Isn't it, Commissioner Gillette? You're wrong.
It is as of 3.
Okay. Motion passes 10-0. Approval of the minutes dated October 7, 2019. Moved by Haas, supported by Sauger. Please vote. Motion passes 10-0. Public participation. Does anyone wish to be heard? Anyone wish to be heard? Seeing none, we'll close public participation. Budget reviews. Capital Improvement Plan. Director of Finance, Steve Smeagol. And I'm going to get a motion to receive and file right out of the gate. Moved by Kraft, supported by Carabelli. Thank you. Go ahead, Steve.
Before you have the 2020 to 2024 capital plan. We spoke a little bit at length about this on Monday, and that was more at a high level. No individual projects were discussed at that point in time, but Jaco and Lynn are here to talk about their respective projects, so I'm going to turn the floor over to them. They're the subject area experts, and I will leave my comments at that, and I'll invite Lynn up to the podium to start with the facilities projects.
I was going to focus on the 2020 projects, and the first project is the administration building. We want to rebuild 4 chilled water pumps and 2 cooling tower pumps. Both of these types of pumps are components of the air conditioning system. The chilled water pumps actually circulate the water throughout the building, and the cooling tower pumps actually circulate the water into the cooling tower. Due to hours, age, inspection, we believe it needs to be rebuilt in order to minimize any untimely failures in the system. The next item pertains to the court building, and we would like to install variable speed drives on the supply and return fans. We have 7 air handlers in the court building. Each of the air handlers have a supply and return fan, so we would be installing 14 variable speed drives. What they would allow us to do is vary the speed. We can actually adjust supply to match building demand. Right now, currently, the fans are running at maximum speed, so we can actually save energy and wear and tear on these fan motors. Also, we would then tie these into the building management system so we can control these remotely. Also, we have control the air static volume. Over time, ductwork tends to loosen up, and in the seams, it starts to leak a certain volume of air. In the renovation project of the court building, the ductwork was actually tightened up. So now you're hearing the full volume of 100% air going through. So we are actually getting some complaints in the courtroom areas, so we believe that this will address the issue. Also, we would like to replace the outside dampers. There are 3 dampers, and they regulate the airflow inside the ducts. The next item is actually the jail, and it's some mechanical upgrades. As you can see in the capital plan, it spans different projects within 5 years. We have various sections to the jail. We have MS, D block, rehab, the tower, and the annex. It ranges in age from 1950s construction to 2000. What we are focusing in the year 2020 is the replacement of the cooling tower and also 4 pumps that are in the rehab center. The rehab center is from 1975, middle to late 70s. The cooling tower actually rejects the waste heat in the system and allows us to cool the air. We believe that this is a project that definitely needs to move forward. We know the board is considering putting a ballot issue on, and there would be a vote. So when you see all these capital items for the jail spanning 5 years, in the event that the jail is approved, we will rethink some of these items. Usually you look at mechanical systems to get 20, 25 years out of them. We would pull back and then look, what do we need to do to possibly get 5 years? Because we think the process would take 5 years. The building management system, you have seen that in prior capital plans. We've been tying and installing controls and tying the systems into a building management system. That is a computer-based control system. So it allows us to control the environment inside the building from a remote location. So we can stop and start fans, we can open and close dampers, we can change chilled water temperatures, and sort of to address all the building environment issues. It's a wonderful thing to do. Before, when we had to make any adjustments, we had to send somebody out, the boiler refrigeration personnel, to make the adjustments at the equipment. As you can see from prior plans, I've reduced the amount. Any future control work, we're either tying it in because we're replacing equipment, or it's a part of, the controls would be a part of a major renovation later on in the 5-year plan. We also want to explore maybe using the controls on the water system. The worst thing that can happen is have a pipe burst on off hours. We have to bring a plumber in, and it takes time to get to the facility. If we can shut water off, we minimize any potential damage. The underground electrical, you may recall, I believe it was at last month's meeting, you approved what I call the second phase of the project. This would be the third phase. It is probably the most critical phase in terms of the buildings that we're dealing with. And this is the connection to Martha Teaberry and also the jail. But we are addressing our underground electrical infrastructure. So this is what we call our electrical grid. So we're going through that entire system, and when we complete this phase, we're going to be in really good shape as it pertains to our underground electrical system. We also want a project where we're starting to look at the infrastructure of the underground sanitary, storm, and water lines. A lot of these lines are very old. We're attempting to be more proactive rather than reactive. What we'd like to do is camera these lines. We want to get a handle on the condition of the lines, and then we can have an orderly plan. It's much easier to have a planned repair or replacement rather than an emergency. The next item is the Clemens Center EFS, and that is actually the exterior of the Clemens Center. It has what is called a drive-it system. This is a wall cladding system. It's non-load bearing. Over time it deteriorates. It is difficult to patch. Certainly we'd have to skim coat it in order to get a uniform color to that exterior. We're looking at different options. We believe that there is a full brick exterior to that building based on some of the old pictures we have seen. A lot of the damage occurs to the lower section of the ephes. We're actually looking at exposing that brick and maybe limit the amount of the drive-it system on that facility. The next item is the secured and non-secured doors at the jail. There's 27 secured doors. We have 20 in mental health, 3 in booking, 3 in D block, and 1 in rehab. The non-secured doors, we have 1 in the annex, 1 in D block, and 3 in rehab. Our carpenters have been maintaining these over the last 33 years in the tower. We're starting to lose good metal. These are steel doors. They're grinded, they're sanded. We're starting to lose the good metal that we can be able to close the doors properly. These are electronic doors. And also, a lot of these doors have food chutes. We've welded and re-welded and welded again. But it's getting to the point we're having real difficulty in making those chutes operational. So I don't know if you have any more or any questions on the 2020 projects.
There are questions, thank you. Commissioner Carabelli.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Lynn. I don't know if this is more for Steve or for you, but this is the new stuff, the carryover stuff that wasn't done. Where's is that list going to be provided separately, or?
That list will be coming to you when I provide the third quarter update, which will probably be early November, end of this month, early November.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Chair Smith. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chair Smith.
Thank you. Hi, Lynn. I know you already actually answered most of my question about the jail projects and if the millage, and all of that goes through. These doors, that 1.2 million, is that for all the doors, or would that be something also that you would look at doing the worst first and then stretching it out, obviously, if the millage were to go through?
These are the 27 secured and non-secured, and the 4 or 5 of the non-secured doors. I spoke to Captain Zimney. Most of these doors are in the mental health section. They feel very strongly that they need these doors operational. But we will certainly go back as this project proceeds and see if we can minimize that.
So, and this is for new doors, correct?
Yes.
So, I know this is a big project. Let's just assume that the jail gets passed and they're going to build a new jail. The one thing nice about building something new is that you can build it to sizes that fit things that you already have. Like I have some windows at my house and I'm doing a little addition on a cottage, so I can build it to fit these windows. I'm just hoping that if there's anything that, if this new jail is going to be built, if there's anything that we've done recently that's still good that we can't work with the designers to try to say, can we incorporate some of this into that? I know it's not always as easy as it sounds.
Yeah, sometimes it's difficult. We will definitely discuss that. We're known for scavengers, and we took equipment, boilers, and rooftop units out of the Warren Satellite, and we got another 15, 16 years because we installed them at Hall Road. Sometimes we do it to a fault, but we definitely try and do that, and we will do that.
Thanks, Lynn.
Thank you. Commissioner Leonetti?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lynn, in this list here, is there any priority with respect to this? I know they're numbered 1 through 24. am I to assume like the priority would be to get the pumps done and then assume the last priority is to do the replacements on the jail? Is this ordered in a priority to from your perspective?
It's a priority by years.
Okay.
That merely more reflects alphabetically, except that was a new project with the doors.
Okay, all right, that's why it was added on later. The other question I have is regard to number 19, the underground electrical upgrades. You indicated that this is the third phase, and it involves Martha Teaberry and the jail. I guess it goes along with some of the questions that Chairman Smith was asking. I mean, Martha Teaberry, too, next month we've got to make a big decision on that, too. So what exactly are we doing? What is this $1.6 million being spent on in respect to Martha Teaberry and in respect to the existing jail?
We're replacing the underground primary lines.
Okay, so with respect to the jail, let's say that the millage is approved. Are these lines then going to be able to be continued to funneled right into the new jail? Like there might have to be an extension because I know we're building it back a little ways, but we're not going to have to redo a whole new electrical grid if we build a whole new jail, are we?
We shouldn't have to. My concern is going the 5 years. If there's
I got it.
Yeah, and we believe that the line at the jail is actually a direct burial, so it's not even in any kind of conduit or duct bank.
Okay, so it's an immediate concern right away, regardless of what
Yeah.
happens for a
Yeah.
variety of reasons. Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, Lynn. I want to follow on the questioning of both Rob and the chairperson. You almost are stuck with contingency plan on the jail and Martha Teaberry. If A happens, then we can do this, and if it doesn't, then we're going to be looking at doing this. And yes, we did approve putting it on the ballot for August of 2020. Are you planning on starting the doors or the underground piping prior to the ballot initiative?
We feel we need to start on those doors. It was my fault and a failure to communicate more with our tradespeople in the field. They've been struggling with these doors. It creates real security, safety issues, certainly as it pertains to inmates in the mental health section. We believe we need to proceed with that. I mean, it's taking them days to get a door operational if they can. So it's troublesome for them.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Romano, District 4, Sterling Heights.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, Lynn.
Hi.
Lynn, I'm looking down here at item 21 and 21.2 boathouse seawall repair garage upgrades, and it's $2 million. And on the 5-year plan, it's not scheduled to 2022. And just recently, talking to the executive, that thing's about ready to fall apart. I guess my question is that $2 million, we're putting it off to 2022. It'll never last that long. So have you looked at this to see if, in fact, this could be a priority item?
Well, what we're finding is that their current, I'll call it garage area where they put the boats, it just isn't suitable for their purpose right now. The water levels are so high. It has a roof on this. Also, the type of boats that they have, the garage actually is not long enough to accommodate these boats. We believe, we're trying to look at dollars. Steve Schmigel and Steve Adair are definitely looking at dollars, and I know the board is. So we have pushed it to 2022. It's rather expensive construction. You're talking about they currently have 4 bays. They would like to see 5 bays. The bays would be larger. We're talking maybe approximately 7,000 square feet of garage. We'd have to put in a cofferdam So you have to put in a temporary structure so you can work below the water level, so it's expensive construction. Certainly, we'd like to do all the project sooner rather than later, but we're trying to see what fits best with the dollars that we have.
So in your opinion, this is going to last? The boathouse is going, the garage upgrades, the seawall repair, this is all going to, they'll all stand pat till 2022? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't have a crystal ball, but we do everything, we try to keep everything going. The seawall, what we're seeing right now is soil erosion under the concrete walkway. So we know the soil is seeping through the seams. In the paving project, I know it looked odd to have the boathouse in the paving project, but we're trying to actually correct a trip hazard. There's sections of that walkway that has dropped 2 inches. So we're going to correct that. And then, to be honest, I don't know anything about seawall construction.
There's the man to ask, right there. There's the man to ask. There's our expert.
So obviously, we have pushed that. You usually get 40 to 50 years out of a seawall, is what I've been told. We know there's some issues with it, but it is definitely a substantial investment. So we wanted to at least put it on the radar.
Thank you. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Sauger?
Yeah, laying on those steel doors, is anything wearing out on them chutes you got on the door? None of those are wearing out, are they?
Oh, yeah, we're continuously welding and re-welding those doors.
Because those chutes are not just to feed them and talk to them. We used to handcuff them that way, because if they're combative, that's the way you do it, and then take them back out, but they're wearing out also, eh?
Yes.
Oh, my God. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Duche?
Thank you very much. Hello, Len. Hi. You don't know much about seawalls. You probably know more than a whole lot of other people. And if you want to know about seawalls, I suggest you talk to Mr. Delden, because he probably knows all about seawalls. That being said, are we taking any units off of the health department building and putting them on Verkulen, or taking them down to the Majestic Center when we're shutting down the health department building?
Yes, I mean, we're trying to do a renovation at the Verkulen building. The state is going to vacate about 35,000 square feet.
Right.
And we're going to renovate it for the health department.
Right.
We would then demolish Mount Clemens Health.
Are we taking any of the units off the health department here and moving them there? Or are those units older than what we got at Verkulen?
Probably the oldest mechanical equipment we have is Mount Clemens Health. The second oldest is Southeast.
Okay. So we might not gain much of anything.
No, but we always go through a building before demolition.
Yeah, I know you do. To these doors, I understand that you can only weld it X amount of times. After a while, there's nothing to weld it to. Is there a priority, are you going to prioritize it as far as security doors first? Or are you going to prioritize it as the ones that are going to pieces and you can put your foot through them first?
It would be part of a total package.
Okay.
These doors are very expensive. They've indicated to budget $40,000 per door on the secured doors.
Okay. It is what it is. All right, we'll talk about the garage and seawall later, but I wanted to ask about that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Chair Smith?
Thanks, Lynn. I know this isn't until 2022, so it's not obviously super important, but speaking of the demolition of the health department, is that in the parameter of the drawing for the new jail? Is that in the parking lot area, or would that be part of the new jail if it went through just as proposed?
The design that I have seen would not remove the Mount Clemens Health Building.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Okay, so before we get a vote on the receive and file, because it is associated with capital outlay, and this isn't for you, Lynn, you don't need to answer this, so thank you very much for your presentation. I want Director Smeagol to just very briefly explain the $2 million that we did for capital for the 8.5 mile. There's some confusion. That money was always dedicated to drains and could not be spent elsewhere. Could you just explain that very quickly?
I'll try to explain it quickly. So that money is in the fund balance of the debt service fund. And so over the years, as the Public Works Office has issued debt over the years for various improvements and various drains, most often at the 8.5 mile district where, Chapaton is, but we've spent some money out of that fund in other drain projects over the years. The debt service requirements are split between St. Clair Shores, East Point, the state of Michigan, and the county. Those assessments were established in 1961. It's based on basic land mass, essentially, for stormwater runoff, and the county's responsible for about 4.5% of the debt service of all the debts issued by the drain office. We then, in accordance with the drain code, assess a tax, essentially, to cover those costs. It's been going on for decades. The fund balance in that fund has built up to about $2 million. It has to be spent on drain projects of some sort or debt service. So now we have a project that needs some pre-funding, if you will, or advance funding. That money is there. So to be clear, the $2 million that we've committed to advance fund, I use that term, I don't know if that's really, accurate, but to advance fund the Chapaton project is not coming from the general fund, just to be clear.
And it had to be spent on drains.
Had to be spent on drains, because that's what it was collected for in the first place.
Is that a countywide assessment?
It is a countywide assessment.
Okay, I just wanted commissioners to understand that, because I know that there was some confusion on that. And I know that you said it, because I picked up on it, and I had asked you in between the meetings about it. So I know that you told us that. I just think we didn't collectively take it in. So thank you for the explanation.
You're welcome.
All right, with that, let's vote on the receive and file. Oh, yeah. Okay, we'll do them both at the same time.
No problem. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm just going to go through the line items in our capital plan by department. The first one on there is Mentis AI Smart Bench. That's a current project.
What?
We've rolled out 2 judges, and those 2 judges are testing the system and happy with it. It's a possibility we're going to do 2 more judges this year, but the money is really to roll out the rest of the judges in the circuit court to be able to use AI Smart Bench. It's a system that allow them to do their orders and sign documents at the bench when there's those type of things that need to go to the e-filing system. They cannot do it directly on the e-filing system, so that's what that system is for. The second item on there is what's called Tract Index. It's for Clerk Register of Deeds, and it create the ability to locate parcels based on a parcel ID or tax ID and legal description. This also ties into a GIS initiative that we've been working on. There's a lot of, there's different departments that use these parcel IDs, and they enter data at different times, and the parcel ID is not always available to identify the same parcel. So
I'm sorry.
it is something that we want to make sure that people can use and not have to do duplicate entries. The next item on there is equalization, pivot software. Equalization currently, when they go out, has a very manual process when they go and do measurements at properties. With this software and an iPad, they will be able to use a device that they can do the measurements with, and the data is directly imported into the iPad, so there's no data entry, which makes entry more accurate and so forth. Something definitely worthwhile doing. The next item is morgue imaging. This is to image documents at the county morgue. It also includes x-rays. The next item for 2020 is MICR bidirectional interface. That is just to be able to have a bidirectional capability in MICR, which they don't have currently. It's just a one-way thing to the state. Death record software, there's an RFP currently being done, and once that RFP's results come back, that project will kick off. That is something that has to be done. Currently, the medical examiner is on the state system, which is not being updated anymore, and everybody have been told that they need to get off of that system. So that will be a project that start after the RFP is done. The EH integrated system, or septic phase 1, 2, 3, that system is actually took us quite a while to kick off. I came to you last year, second half of last year, and asked for a budget amendment to make $150,000 of that money available to us. We have not been able to get the scope of work done until very recently. The scope of work, and there's various reasons for that, but the scope of work is coming to you later this month at our next meeting. So then that project will kick off. And the other years on there is phase 2 and 3, which we will do at a later time, or come to you at a later time. There's a budget number under information technology for $335,000, and it's called infrastructure core performance hardware. That is really for to buy additional nodes for our Avamar or backup system for the county. We do all our backups in-house. We have 2 of those systems. One is housed at the college, and the other one is housed at Comtech. And from time to time, as our backup needs increase, we have to expand that system. So that is what that money is for, as well as purchasing additional servers to give us additional capacity to roll out virtual servers. The remote access solution is, I came to you last month with the VDI remote access solution. That is money that we want available in the future as that whole project or needs increase, that we have the ability to buy additional licenses. Surveillance camera expansion, we have surveillance camera needs throughout the county from time to time. And as those needs come in, we service them. There's a safety committee that was created earlier this year. And we've asked that safety committee to manage the priorities for those requests that come in. Because the business cases is most of the time it's because of safety concerns. So as those requests come in, that's what we want to use that money for. Electronic document management, that is the paperless initiative, and that money will be used to start scanning and getting people off of paper as we move forward. The next item, environmentals for intermediate distribution frames. We have what we call IDFs throughout the county, where we have servers or Cisco equipment, network equipment, things like that, that sits out there in environments that's not very conducive to, housing that type of hardware. So what we do is we want to clean up those closets with, the one thing we want to put in there is cooling, so that those items run at the correct, temperature all the time. Cold is not a problem, the problem is heat. So in the summer, some of those areas get pretty hot. The next item is monitoring. Monitoring, we came to you last year, put in a system called App Dynamics, and what that does for us, it gives us real good insight into specific systems so that we can, proactively see that systems are up and running. So when there's slowdowns and things like that, you can identify problems before it actually starts happening, and in helping us to keep the network and our customers up and running all the time. And that's what we want to do with that money, is to continue to do that on our main systems, or the most important systems. Automated testing is becoming increasingly more important. When we work on a big system like OnBase, which is our document management system, for example, every time we have to do an upgrade or we need to bring a new client online, there's no way for us to know whether we will be able to handle the load, the additional load that we're putting on that system. And with automated testing, we'll be able to predict behavior, when you add a significant amount of users to those systems. We also requesting web redesign. Our web environment's been in place now for about 4 years, our current web environment. There's a lot of things that's happening. Our websites look pretty good, but there's a lot of things that's happening that we need to attend to. One of the things is mobile traffic is now the major, the most popular way of accessing our websites. Our website need to be more adaptable to mobile sites, for one thing. Also, the way that people search and the way that people look when they visit websites or when they look for information of companies, of governments, that way, the way people do that is changing rapidly. And there's just quite a few things that we believe at this point in time is not working the way that it should be. Public Works has a system or a request for CRM. and next-gen integration with Acela. This module will allow Public Works to better manage water quality and soil erosion-related complaints, as well as track all associated data. It integrates with GIS and provides real-time locations for complaints. It will also allow quick access to all permits and other pertinent information associated with the property, saving considerable staff time researching the property. Public Works will also be able to pull data and create GIS maps that will immediately alert them to complaint clusters so that we can efficiently manage our staff resources. The next item on there, that is all the items for 2019.
So,
20.
just very quickly, underneath web design, we have pros e-filing that I don't think you spoke to. It's just under the 100,000 web design, so it's just a few from the bottom, it's 57,000. Item 22.
Oh. Okay, sorry about that. The prosecutor's e-filing, I came to you earlier this year. We started working on the first phase of that, which is scan, index, and retrieve. We requested $119,000 of that budget, and we are currently working on that project, and it's moving along well. The next part of this is to start doing workflows in that environment. So that's what the money is for in the next phase.
Okay, so real quick before I call on everybody else, you've just given us a real good explanation of each and every one of these, and I was wondering if you were going to sort of give us like a summary in writing so that as we're going through our budget process.
I can do that.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, bear with me. I have a few questions. Jaco, to make it easy on you, we'll just start at the beginning and work our way down.
No problem.
So we'll start with number 8, the death record software. You
Yeah.
said that we were kicked off the state system. Is that something, did I hear that correctly? So is that something the state was using and now every county is responsible to take care of themselves?
Yeah, it's not everybody was on that system. Macomb County happened to use that system.
Of course.
And I cannot remember the exact name, but it's got 4 letters in it.
Okay.
Public health something.
Okay.
And that system, it's not very expensive, it's actually a very cheap system. But the problem is, the biggest concerns is, at this point in time, is that we have to get our data because there's requirements for reporting and things like that, and you have to keep your data for a certain amount of time. We have to get our data out of that system and then convert that data into a new system. So that's what the whole RFP at this point is about.
Nothing to it.
Yep.
All right, next up, we're going to go down to number 10. There's a massive jump in dollar amount from 2020 to 2021, and then it dips back down again to 22. Is that because you're adding capacity, you're buying, just
Yeah, so
adding on?
In 21, I came to you beginning of this year, we bought 2 new arrays at that point in time. At that point in time, I also mentioned that in 2021, we have to also replace our Avamar, which is the backup system, as well as the Isilon, which is our file serving system. So those 2 systems are going to be replaced in 21.
So that's the jump.
What that jump is for.
Okay. And then wandering down a little bit further to number 19, the monitoring, there's only 80,000 for 2020. Is that something that we do consistently? And I'm just kind of wondering why there are no dollar amounts for 21, 22.
It is purchasing software
Okay.
for that reason. And we believe that that money, once we do that, will, at this point in time, I can put a number in there for later, but at this point in time, we feel with the $80,000, we'll be able to purchase what we need for now, and then see how it goes in
All
the
right,
future.
final question before I turn it over. Jump into 2023, there's $300,000 from state, federal, and local funds. What is that from? Steve?
That is funding number 11 on the facilities, so rooftop replacements at the New Baltimore Court. So the courts have capital projects funds, they have part of their fees go into building improvement funds, and so that money will be used to fund that replacement. We did something similar with the Romeo Court this year.
Why is that on the IT sheet and not the F&O sheet?
Because that's just the grand total of everything at the
Okay,
bottom of the page.
okay,
so I didn't
that's
have
just
to
the
have
continuation,
A little
okay.
schedule on page 3.
Got it. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Jaco. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Carabelli?
I appreciate it. The last item that you had touched on was the prosecutor's office, and I go back into 2019 budget, and for the prosecutor e-filing, automates prosecutor workflow. Current cost, anticipated cost, $322,500. Current plan for 2019, $322,500. And then I'm looking at it now, you got 57,000, then you go back up to 309,000. So did we not use that 322,500 that was budgeted for 2019?
We requested an amendment this year for $119,000. That's what's tied up of the full amount at this point in time.
Okay, so my question is, anticipated cost of $322,500, you used $119,000 of that, is that what I'm to understand?
Yeah, that is currently in progress.
And so then now, is that jumping this project up to just under 400,000? Or
We anticipate that it's going to increase in cost.
Yeah,
That's where that
4.5?
money is coming from.
Oh, okay. All right, that was the one question that I brought up. A couple questions I have for you. And Steve, I don't know if this is more for you or not. The clerk's office. And I know that they charge for electronic copies and everything else that they do, and they have a special fund set up for that. So my question would be, the track index and the, what was the other one? The track index for 75,000 and the 15,000 for the software.
Sorry to interrupt there, Commissioner, that's actually a mistake. The 15,000 is equalization, it's not the clerks.
Okay, so then we'll talk about that in a minute. So that $75,000, Steve, could that not come out, instead of the general fund, come out of the technology fund? I'm asking.
I will check into that, Commissioner. If it has to do with Register of Deeds, probably so.
Because they charge for those services, so.
Well, there's money that goes into the technology fund. We did tap into that for a project last year or this year. I don't know how much is left in there.
No, understood.
I believe there's
First, if we can check into that.
sufficient money. I mean, and you can see it in the budget, so.
Okay. And before you leave, and if that was a mistake for the equalization, my understanding is that and I may be wrong here, correct me if I am, we contract with certain communities, we do equalizations for them? Is that?
A few.
I think a couple of them?
Yeah, not very
So-
much. Which project is that?
That's this one.
The measurements?
That, it was actually,
The four, it's
for
number
some
four.
reason, it was listed as clerks, but it's equalization.
Oh, got it.
Yours is listed as clerks.
Because I do know that, my understanding, again, if I'm wrong, correct me, is that our normal equalization, we don't measure anything. The only time we're doing that is when we're taking over and we're contracted to do a community. Would that not fall into the cost of doing that work for that community? or those communities?
I guess I'll have to get back with you on that. I don't, what this project is, if we're charging for certain things in the equalization department, not sure what's in there actually, so.
And I don't, that's why I'm asking you.
Right.
If we could check into
And
that.
I don't know as I stand here before you.
Okay, then the last thing before you leave, the morgue itself, do they charge for the services?
That I don't know I don't know off the top of my head what they charge for or not either.
Okay.
I can find
No,
all that
If
out.
you could find out to see if it helps offset the cost, because again,
Well, if those fees are, that's all going into the general fund regardless, into the health department.
but now that we're charging internal services to departments, does this cover what this is, or this is above and beyond? Do you see what I'm trying to get to? If I have a business plan and I have something, and we're charging because this is what it's costing to service them, on our part, that's fine.
Yeah, are you getting at whether our fee structure for various things is sufficient to cover the cost?
Exactly,
Right.
and do we need to change the fee schedule to,
We're looking at that
The right
in my
size.
office as we speak.
thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And before I call Commissioner Hahn, there's been some technical difficulties, so I'm going to call on Commissioner Gillette, who's been trying to get the opportunity.
It appears to have been user error on my part primarily, Madam Chair. But thank you. Good thing we have an IT guy just in case, worst comes to worst. But Jaco, thanks very much for the presentation. I greatly appreciate it. I'm not an expert on IT or technology, but I'm just zooming back and looking at the IT budget overall from 2013 to 2015, that 3-year span, was a very stable spending in IT. It was 5-point-something million per year. But then from 2015 to 2019, we've been averaging a 17% increase every year. But then when we look at 2020 forward, the projections are relatively stability again. Is there some reason why since 2016, actually 2015 through 2019, we've going up 17% a year, whereas prior to that, and looking forward, they've been, much smaller increases. 17% seems unsustainable. Is there some major reason why these last 4 years have been a astronomical increase in annual spending on IT?
From a capital standpoint, all I can say is it's cyclical from time to time, because we have times where we spend a lot of money on equipment, on replacing equipment, things like that. And then that goes away, and, from a capital standpoint, then spending is more, how can I put it? It's not a consistent spending over a period of 5 or 10 years, that every year you have the same needs. There's so many different systems that we have, software, hardware, and so forth, that I cannot put it any other way as.
Yeah, I understand capital projects in the more traditional sense of a furnace or something like that has an X-year life expectancy. I would guess that technology is ever evolving and ever changing, and it's less predictable in some respects as to what the lifespan might be, depending on what comes out and so forth. But I would have thought that was the case in past years too, that technology was evolving. I know it's always exponentially increasing, but is there something that we should be doing to cut down on the 17% increases every year in IT spending? I know your job is to meet the needs of the county, and so you have a lot of demands that are put on you. But I'm just concerned that it's not sustainable, that somehow we may have to pull back on some of these projects, or we're going to have to resign ourselves to 17% increases every year, with inflation rates, 2%. I don't know the answer, but I do believe that we can't sustain these increases. And so I would challenge you and the administration to go back and see if there's any way we can bring those numbers, those increases down to a sustainable level. Whether it's making compromises or telling some folks they have to do things the old way for a few more years, or, there's got to be some way we can prioritize and bring it down. it just is kind of staggering, the percentage increases every year. So I would expect your job is to do whatever you're asked from the departments. You know, you're asked to make things more efficient. I don't know the number, but you might be asked to prioritize. You might be asked to make some IT technical decisions on what can be sustained a little longer or in some capacity like that. The dollar decisions may have to be made elsewhere, but it's something that we as a board, I think, have to be seriously concerned about. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Ha.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Jaco. Steve, my first question is for you. On our pie chart, page 12, that you had distributed to us, in which one of the categories does IT fall? This is easy question, Steve. Not a hard one.
On 12,
My 12, your pie chart.
it's probably a mixture of all those categories.
Okay, so
Because you have-
that's what I was.
You have
try-
every one of those line items pretty much in the IT budget.
That's what I was trying to find out. Now, there's the maintenance contracts, which I thought I saw was 5 mil. Is that throughout all of these items on the pie charts as well?
No, the maintenance contracts will be in repairs and maintenance, so I guess it'd be the gray, the
So
small
that would
gray
be
slice.
the 4% of the total
4%, yeah.
budget? Right. So it says repairs and maintenance.
Correct.
So now that you've defined where some of the IT maintenance contracts would be, what type of repairs is that IT?
That would be more facilities related.
Okay, that's not IT
Buildings
related.
and equipment,
Okay.
that kind of thing.
Thank you. And for you, Jaco, we had discussed with Lynn prior to you, there was about 2 mil in there for facilities and grounds for the jail. I've noticed in 2020, you have moved the items 26, 27 from 2020 to 2021. Is that your comprehensive plan B, should the millage fail? Or will you be coming back to us and saying, in November or October of next year, I need to pull those things into 2020? You see which ones I'm talking about?
No, I'm not 100% sure. What is the number?
Okay, on the same list that Phil was using, it's your item 26, 27. One's for 730 and one's for 432. Last two.
Yeah, so the 700, 730, whatever number, that is for the jail system. That jail system is not to be pulled back. The current contract, we negotiated a maintenance contract with Motorola. That system that they have, that we are on today, that system is also going away. And we have to start that year with an RFP to replace that system. It's going to take us about 2 years to replace that system. And so it gives us, beginning of that year, it gives us the 2 years that we need to replace the system. And that's why the money is in there. So we won't start before that. We're going to do the RFP towards the end of that prior year, and then we will start implementing the system, whatever it ends up being.
Thank you. Commissioner Droulette was hitting on the incremental increases. When you have software and hardware expenditures, is there any definition of, does that save resources? Does that provide higher level of security? Is that the analysis that you go through with Steve, I'm assuming, to ascertain whether or not something's value added?
Well, when it comes to value add, let's take a subject like security. We have to make sure that the county stays secure on all levels. And one of the things that I didn't mention earlier that I think is is also very important, is that once you go down a certain road, you cannot then say, I'm going to stop spending now, I'm not going to, and I'm not saying this is all responsible for the 17%, but then say, I don't want to upgrade this because it's going to be too much money. Because every single time you make that decision, you jeopardize security. So that's just how software works nowadays, how it's developed. Any new vulnerabilities, anything that happens with that software, if you don't continue down that path and stay current, you're going down a very dangerous path. And so that's one of the reasons we obviously try and keep up and making sure that we keep systems secure. I know comments in the past have been made that we buy the best systems out there. And when it comes to computers, when we buy hardware, we pay currently, I think, $608 for our computers. You can buy a computer for $2,500 or more. We don't buy the newest or the latest, processors. We always buy underneath, the top level today because those are very expensive. We truly try and keep the prices down as far as possible. And that goes with anything and everything that we buy. So we do try to keep things in check. And I completely understand that increase in cost is a concern. It's a concern of mine as well. But, we also, in the past, we've gone down this road where we fell behind on what we had, and it caused us a lot of issues. So it's a balance that you have to keep, and that we always need to work on and see how we can save cost.
Thank you, and I know about this much more when IT subjects and Commissioner Droulette down there, so thank you for your explanation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Doucet.
Thank you. Please don't insult my IT specialist here. Jaco, I don't envy your position. The world would be a lot better if we stopped at Windows XP. But the problem is absolutely nothing works with Windows XP anymore.
AOL?
Just barely. And it's not on the phone. A question on number 2, the tract index. What's driven me nuts from the beginning on this is this tied at all into this remonumentation nonsense?
No, it's not. It's not part of
Why not?
remonumentation. Don't know.
Yeah, we have people running around putting X's on a rock someplace, and that's where everything's supposed to go from. This is still 2019. I think it's time we take something like the track index and looked at combining it with remonumentation. That's 1. 2, on number 14, we're spending $500,000 on going paperless. This makes, for $500,000, we could buy a ton of paper. This makes no sense to me at all. I mean, none. But who's left to be scanned in? We scanned in the entire Board of Commissioners history, if you will. Who's left to scan?
Most of the departments, to be honest with you, the departments currently, the courts are the only real, if I can call it that, paperless department. We're doing that with prosecuting attorney right now. The Board of Commissioners was scanned in quite a few years ago. And then what happens, the one part, we call it paperless, but what that does for you, it allows you to work electronically, which makes the difference, which is what you're doing in this meeting by being able to vote on
No, and
on there
I
do
understand
all
it,
those
but
processes. If it's paper, then that piece of paper need to be saved somewhere, and, it builds up. And we completely understand, that's the way we've always done things. But, if we want to be able to work electronically, that's what we have to do. is
Well,
start scanning our
I would challenge you to
documents.
try to knock down the cost of going paperless. I think that would be a great idea. Number 15, environmental cooling and fire suppression. Where is all this stuff?
Almost every building we have.
It used to be in that building that we had like 2 floors, that we had to have special cooling and all this other nonsense for it. Where is it? It's everywhere now?
Every building has an infrastructure, an electronic infrastructure. So in this building in the basement, there's a room where there's Cisco equipment, very expensive equipment that's there. On each and every floor, on this floor and every floor of this building, there's a little room, electric room, where we have Cisco equipment in them. That goes for every building.
So it's not in one central location anymore?
No.
It's
it
all
is-
over the place?
It is all over the place. And those are the ones that I'm talking about.
Okay.
That we just want to clean up and make sure we're not setting those up like a data center where you have very high-end, expensive equipment.
Right.
But we have to look at the cooling. It brings down cost and so on those
Okay.
devices.
Last but not least, number 27, the Sheriff's Department next year. This key scan system, does this have anything to do with the doors that we were talking about in F&O?
That is a door system that was put in place many, many years ago by the sheriff's office. And that is the system that needs to be replaced.
Does that have anything to do with your doors?
No, the doors that I'm referring to are tied into the graphic control panels
Okay.
in the control room.
Okay, so these are 2 separate, yes, Steve?
As I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jacob, but this is a system where the correction staff go around and scan in, they're making their rounds every hour.
Yeah?
So that's what it is. Nothing to do with really doors.
So it doesn't open or close any
No,
doors?
they're making sure that, that I did my rounds every hour on my watch, so
Okay, but that's
I don't know
still,
much about the system, but that's,
that's $430,000. That's,
It's a
So,
circular
okay.
disc, Steve. It's a circular disc that punches a number.
it's a what?
It's a circular disc. Go over there sometime and you'll ask for it.
Okay,
Okay.
I was hoping it was tied in with the
No,
doors,
no, it's,
that we could kill 2 birds with 1 stone, so to speak. Thank you, Jaco. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Chair Smith.
Hi, Jaco.
Hi, Commissioner.
So I have a question to ask you about 21, 22, but first, I know you're always on the firing line because you're our, kind of our number one, when it comes to capital projects and money spent, obviously IT and F&O, who we both have here. It gets the most scrutiny because you guys, have to spend the most money. I just, hope that you realize the frustration comes from, and I've been here, we're coming on 9 years, 10 years, I don't know, a long time, that we keep talking about efficiencies and we keep getting new systems to be more efficient and need less manpower or whatever it might be, but yet we keep hiring more people or contractors and we keep needing more money to keep these systems in place that we keep adding. And, some of them they seem like they are conveniences to us. And I'll say that a lot of times we don't understand, everything that goes on. So I'm just saying what generally speaking, I think comes from a lot of the frustration on this side is it seems like, I don't know I understand we got to keep up with, different softwares and stuff, but kiosks, for example. They're convenient, but I don't think that we've saved any, jobs. We've still had to have the same amount of people. Those type of things, I think sometimes we feel like we're convenient enough. You know, maybe we don't have to keep spending more money, and it seems like every time we get something that we need that would make things more efficient, next year we come back with another maintenance agreement that we need for that. So it just seems to make it more expensive, and that's, I know it's not always the case. I'm just telling you kind of from the layman's view up here, you know, why you get a lot of these questions, because it does seem like Commissioner Carabelli talking about the, which one was that, Jim? I'm sorry, that started out, the prosecutor's one, starts off at one, and it almost always goes up, it never goes down. I mean, every estimation seems to kind of escalate through the years. So I'm just telling you, that's where this, like, comes from, where you guys stand up here and take this. So I hope you understand that a lot of us would probably live with less convenience and less money. That's a possibility, right? I mean, obviously, we don't know exactly what that is. I just want to make sure we're all dealing in needs rather than wants. Software networking, number 11. Software def networking, is that defense networking, or what is, it's coming up in 2021 for $1.2 million, and it looks like it carries on in perpetuity at $1.2 million a year. I'm just wondering what we're looking forward to in that.
That's what we call software-defined networking. And it's difficult for me to explain, but if I can use an analogy, virtualization in the server environment was revolutionary in our industry. And to explain that to you, if we have to have the amount of servers that we have today, 15 years ago, I would not have been able to house what we have today in Comtech. That's how big a room we will need, with cooling requirements and power requirements and so on, to be able to house that, physical hardware. Today, we can house that whole environment in one rack, pretty much. And every single server that you sign on to, I mean, you have a computer, when you log into a system, that system usually have a server on the back end. That server used to be physical. So today, it's a physical server that sits there, but I can run on one physical server, I can run 50 servers. So 50 different systems can log into one server, so that's why you're able to reduce that footprint. Software-defined networking is doing the same for infrastructure, and I'm talking about switching and so forth, that virtualization has done for server networking. What it does, it allows us to virtualize applications. That's where the industry is going. So for us to be ready to do that, with this replacement that we're doing, we are going to do software-defined networking.
So two things. Number one, I mean, before this comes, I would like to see the corresponding decrease in something else, because if we're adding this as a new revolutionary way to do what you just explained, which I have no idea, there has to be a corresponding decrease in something that we would spend to house all the things that we're replacing. So I mean, we're spending $1.2 million here. What aren't we going to spend now over here? It seems like maybe that, I just want to know what we're, and I don't mean right now, this is next year's budget, I'm just looking at, and is this 1.2 in perpetuity, basically, you're guessing?
That 1.2, what it is based on, it is based on a finance number over time. So, because we don't have the exact number and it's going to be replaced over time, we provided financing department with a financed number for that period.
Okay, again, and I'll just go back to my original comment. We're going to spend $1.2 million a year on something that, again, we don't understand, but it's just making things better, but I'm not, it would be nice to understand how it makes it better or more efficient or less, in a room, and what we're getting out of that 1.2 million that saves us on the back end somewhere else. And like I said, this is for next year's budget, but these are the type of things kind of that I was asking at the beginning, or explaining at least.
Yep,
Thank you.
I understand.
Thank you. I'm laughing because, so if you do it with IT and you take all these servers and you come down to one little server, if you do it with infrastructure, that means we're not actually sitting in this building. That's how we think, because I can't wrap my mind around what you're saying. Virtual infrastructure, so what is that? And what is it that you're making smaller? Do you understand what I'm saying? He said, I have no idea what you're talking about. You said virtual infrastructure, that could be anything. I'm telling you, I may be an idiot, but, we're all going to get in a smaller room. I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. So I think that's where our frustration is coming from. We don't know this stuff. Anyway, I'm just laughing as you're talking because I know that at least half of us have no idea what you're saying.
Wait a minute, real quick. Maybe, and just real quick as a question on this, what you're talking about.
Well, when he said real quick.
Just real quick. When you're talking about this deaf and working network, are you saying that we can put software, like I'm just going to use, say, Microsoft Word, we just need one copy of that, and that'll be in this server, and everybody else's terminal will just rely on that one copy? Is that essentially what you're saying?
That's kind of what VDI does.
Okay.
But it's difficult to describe, but what it does is it shifts the focus from your computer to the application itself.
Okay, and does that then mean in terms of a savings, what Bob is talking about, maybe what Veronica is talking about, is that we may not need as many computers, or we may not have to have those computers have the software installed in the computer?
It's just, if I can explain the industry for you, and this is something you can identify with. 20 years ago, when you had Microsoft Word and Excel on your desktop, it didn't really cost you much money. I mean, it was pretty cheap back then. Gradually, over the years, Microsoft products became more and more expensive. If you buy it today for your office, you're paying quite a lot of money for that. And you have to buy it because there's no way, people used to just load it on 5 computers. There's no way around that anymore. The software industry is going to where everything is in the cloud. And to be able to do all these things that they want to do, they also have to change the technology behind it. They have to increase the bandwidth, because you cannot sit at your house and don't have much bandwidth and log into a cloud system. They have to increase, all those things play a role as the industry grows. And that's how the industry works. So it's very difficult for me to say, well, where do you save here or where do you do this? The industry is driving a lot of these things that we don't have much choice in if you want to be able to do. So you either need to completely remove IT and not do IT anymore, or you need to go with the times and try. And I completely understand the concern about cost that Commissioner Drolet has. It is a concern for us as well. When I go in front of finance and my boss, they ask the same questions. It's not a very clear-cut and easy answer. But that's kind of maybe an analogy. The industry really is changing a lot, and it has been changing a lot over the past 10, 15 years. And
Okay. I don't like the cloud. I don't like the idea of the cloud. The cloud and I don't get along. Okay, my question is, and this is a simple, silly thing. We have a lot of buying power. We're a big entity. Do you ever get the opportunity to say, they're driving everything. They're driving where we have to go. They're driving how much they charge us. They're driving how much they charge per hour. They're driving how much they charge for systems. You ever get the opportunity to say, you know what? Okay, you want 400,000, I'll give you 330 and that's it, and if I can't get that, I'll walk away and figure it out later.
we do that all the time when we buy systems, anything that we do, we always sit down and negotiate. I was just talking about the the 5-year deal that we worked out with Motorola on a fender track. That thing was going to stop pretty much end of this year. And we put a lot of pressure on the company because we've been one of the first Motorola clients. And what they ended up doing, at first, they were not going to upgrade anything for us. They said they're just going to leave it at that. We said, well, this is a big concern. We cannot do that. You have to do this because otherwise it's public safety data. It's going to be vulnerable. We ended up working out a deal with them that probably cost us over the 5 years half of what they originally proposed to us, with a lot of perks that really made it a lucrative deal for us as a county to be able to push back that $730,000 spent.
Okay.
I can tell you right now in my office.
That's all right, I got it. I know there's still more speakers, and we've been on this for quite a while. We still have the 2 other things to go. So I just wanted to ask that question. The always dapper Commissioner Leonetti.
I don't know about that, but thank you, Madam Chair. This one's really for you, Steve. Thank you, Jacob, for a good presentation and enlightening us all the time on a thing that's confusing. Steve, you know, when I look at the projects here, you indicate $47 million over the next 5 years, and you've allocated $14,708,000 as unknown projects. That's about 31% of what we're looking at over the next 5 years. So I guess my question to you is, how did you come up with that number?
It just seems that over the last few years, 10 million is a norm. It could be 10, it could be 12.
Okay.
10 to 12. It just seems to be that when you look out, it's hard to project in those 3rd, 4th, and 5th years of what's going on. It just seems like it's the new norm.
Okay. And you don't know if that 10 million, of this 14,708,000, and I know you might be able to answer this one, Jacob. Do you think that's going to go towards IT, or do you think that's going to go towards Lynn's deals? You just don't know. You're just saying, hey, it's 10 million.
It's a planning.
Gotcha.
It's a planning parameter. Let's just plan on, for budgetary and forecasting purposes, 10 million, maybe a little bit more.
Okay. You feel more, not less, right?
Wouldn't go less. No, yeah, definitely not less.
You're being conservative. I got it.
Definitely not less.
I got you. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Carabelli.
Thank you, Madam Chair. While I was listening to the questions, all great stuff. Jacob, again, thank you. I do have a question, though. Lynn had brought up from F&O about $1.2 million on door replacements at the jail. Jaco has $432,000 for key fobs, key scan. And I look at it at $1,632,000. Boy, it'd be great if we, did them at the same time, maybe even save a few dollars. So if we're going to be doing all this work on the doors, if we're going to be replacing them, I don't want to replace them after we put into the new stuff. So if we can kind of get together on that, that would be awesome, and maybe we can save a few dollars. Thank you.
Okay. Yep, with that, please vote. It's a receive and file after all of that. Now, before we move on to, we still have 2 agenda items. I just wanted to clarify for commissioners, Commissioner Gillette had brought up a valid point. We wait till the last minute, and then the amendments fly, and there's a little bit of chaos, and then the county executive gets that information very late. What I would like to do is maybe have a couple of weeks of meetings, and then on one of our lighter meetings, at the end of that, have a discussion with regard to, especially some of these higher-end things, like instead of do you want to cut a line item, do you want to say, can we cut this department by 1%, or to have those conversations and to not wait until the last day like we've done in the past. We haven't yet added that, but obviously this was going to be one of the longer meetings because it's IT and capital. I just wanted to let you guys know, well, we're not having that discussion today. It is on my radar, and it's not going to go down to the end. Okay? So with that, I think we have Lynn back up. Where's my agenda? Yes, we do. No, we've still got B and C. We have Lynn back up for your regular budget.
Yes, the operating budget.
Okay, so Commissioners, this is page C32, if you have your budget with you. Looks like C32 and C33, and it's in here as well. Okay, go ahead, Lynn.
The Facilities and Operations Department is responsible for the operations and maintenance of county facilities. We maintain approximately 1.8 million square feet of building and grounds. We have a small administrative staff, we have skilled trades personnel, boiler refrigeration personnel, custodial personnel. We also have security personnel. The Facilities and Operations budget actually bears the expense of such items as the electric bills, the gas bills, water and sewer bills, snow removal bills, grass cutting, building repair and maintenance, equipment repair and maintenance, elevator repair and maintenance, even down to the property insurance on the buildings. We also have, we carry the telephone expense in terms of the fire alarm systems, the elevator emergency phones, and also the boiler alarms. The big difference between, or the difference between the 2019 amended and the 2020 recommended or request is $1,466,000, approximately. In the operating expense category, under supplies and services, we have such line items or expenses flowing through that account of janitorial supplies, security services, garbage pickup, hazardous waste disposal, and grounds care. We are requesting, or that category is an additional $68,695. Some of these line item expenses have decreased, some have increased. The major increase is in the area of grounds care. Obviously, you've heard me over the years always wanting to enhance the appearance of the grounds. It's very expensive to do that. We oftentimes are unable to do that because it depends on how much it's going to snow, how much salt we'll use. But what is actually driving the grounds care this time is the stormwater permit plan that we're working with the Public Works Department. We have approximately 400 catch basins on county property. We're required to clean those catch basins when they get 50% full. We have reporting requirements. We also are stepping up sweeping of the parking lots under the basis that the more we sweep, the less we will have to clean in terms of the catch basins. So that is what is actually driving the majority of that increase. In utilities, obviously, what is flowing through that account is the electric bills, the gas bills, water and sewer bills. We seem to be in a time frame of extremes. We're getting extreme cold weather, extreme heat, and that is driving up those bills. Even though we make efforts in energy conservation and lighting, we still see an increase in these areas. And that is an additional estimated at approximately $99,000. The repairs and maintenance, so that's where you see the most significant increase. We are asking for an additional $897,050. What is flowing through that account is building repair and maintenance, equipment repair and maintenance, elevator repair and maintenance, and ongoing maintenance items. These are items that you historically would have seen in the capital plan. You used to see carpeting and floor treatment budget, hazardous materials abatement. You would see roofing, parking lots and sidewalk replacements, tuck pointing. You'd see some miscellaneous remodeling expense, and also the court building exterior seal. Since they are ongoing items, maintenance items, they have been folded into this operating budget. In terms of roofing, what we're actually taking a look at, and we've been putting off for a while, is the pavilions over at Freedom Hill. We are losing those roofs. We should be addressing those roofs. We have the court building penthouse. We haven't re-roofed in 28 years. It's holding up pretty well, but it's definitely to the point that we should be taking a look at that and consider replacement. Public Works has a pole barn where they are storing a lot of their equipment. That roof needs to be addressed. In the area of paving, New Baltimore Court needs some sidewalk work around that facility. We are also looking at portions of the Public Works parking lot. We always have areas at the Verkulen building, and also the ramps into the booking area at the jail have deteriorated. We really don't have a finalized list until the spring of each year. So in the spring of 2020, we want to capture any damage caused by the winter months. We want to fold in any catch basin repairs or catch basins that have collapsed. In the area of tuck pointing, we're looking at the exterior of Hall Road. We're looking at the judge's underground garage in the court building, that exterior. We're looking at Old Central Receiving. There's some block repair. We have the administration building. We want to redo all that caulking. And also there's, in the jail annex, there's some brick repair to be done. The court building exterior seal, you've seen this on the capital plan. It's formally inspected every 2 years. What occurred in the original construction of the building back in approximately 1968? Well, what we noticed in approximately 1978 was a lot of crumbling on the sidewalk surface. We had core samples taken out of that precast back then. It was tested, and in the mix there was too much. There was insufficient sand in the mixture and not enough air entrainment. And when that occurs, it makes it real susceptible to the freeze-thaw cycle. So over the years, I'm sure you've seen maybe some of the discoloration when we remove unsound material and have to patch. We're trying to match a color. It's the horizontal surfaces at the window ledges are deteriorating. So this is going to be an ongoing issue. Every 2 years, it's inspected. Based on that inspection, formal bid documents are developed and it goes out for bids. Carpeting and floor covering, we don't have an automatic obsolescence point that every 10 years we replace carpet. We do it on an as-needed basis. Oftentimes, maybe we'll be taking down a wall in an office area, and of course there's no carpet underneath that wall, and you're trying to patch and you can't really patch, so it's for items like that. Hazardous materials abatement, we do this, we're always going to be running into asbestos. In mechanical repairs, you will see pipe wrap. Often you can tell asbestos pipe wrap when you see it, but if there's a significant amount, we have it tested and verified. This also is used for any lead paint abatement. We also use this for air testing. When we get reports of a six-building kind of syndrome, we do air testing. And if it's necessary, we do abatement in this category. In the area or the line item of vehicle operations, that budget is the same as the 2019 request. We also have called contracted services, and this is in the area of janitorial. So what flows through that line item is window cleaning, carpet cleaning, upholstery cleaning, the replacement and cleaning of mats, entryway mats. We have trauma cleanup, and also there are certain buildings where periodically we go in and disinfect the restroom areas. And we asked in that category, believe it was an increase of approximately $6,900. Another area in the budget is internal services. For us, that is liability insurance, that's property insurance, that's vehicle insurance, copier costs, and we now have this indirect cost allocation. And then we also have a capital outlay. And what we're planning for in that, I don't just spend it because it's there. But we do want to set aside money in case we need to replace tractors, any of the snow equipment, and that kind of thing, any of the equipment that we have in the carpenter shops. So I don't know if you have any questions.
Okay, yeah, just very quickly, you listed a lot of things. Is it possible to get that list to us for the just for the repairs and maintenance? But it doesn't have to be like the other one where you have to write everything down. Just list the actual repair. You don't have to do a 20-page report. Could you get that to us?
You mean the categories that are in the line items?
Just repairs and maintenance is the one I'm curious about. Which was most of what you said.
Oh.
And I didn't want all of, you don't have to give the explanation, just the listing of it. What I'm curious about was in 2018, it was 3.5, and it went to 4.6 because we stopped using capital outlay and we transferred it into the general fund, the regular repairs, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so then from 19 to 20, it jumps up, so that's why it jumped up $1 million. It jumps up again $1 million, but then from the foreseeable future, it stays $1 million higher every year. And so that's what I'm not sure what happened with respect to that. It's not one unusual thing because it seems to be an ongoing change in the actual amount that we'll be spending.
It depends on the condition of items. Some years we have more paving, some years we have less paving. I don't know if I'm answering your question.
Well, I just knew that the first large jump made sense because we were transferring capital outlay stuff into here. But this is a permanent large jump, and I'm struggling with how we had a $75 million project, but our general repairs and maintenance is going up instead of going down. So I guess I'm just really curious as to that particular line item and the work. You gave us the report, and I'm not looking for the spelled out reason for everything. I am concerned that it's jumping up $1 million permanently, $1 million a year permanently, and we're being told we're going into a downturn. So I just wanted to let you know that.
We can certainly do that. The first jump reflected, and I hope I'm answering you, was hazardous materials abatement was folded in, carpeting or floor covering was folded in, miscellaneous remodeling, and a underground contingency. What is being folded in now is roofing projects, paving projects, tuck pointing projects.
Oh, see,
exterior seal.
Okay, that might be my confusion, because I would think an expensive roof, like the type of roof here, would be a capital outlay project. So it appears that we're folding more in, yet the capital outlay budget, even though we've already folded in things into the general fund, is continuing to grow. And we're folding more things in, but the capital outlay budget is growing. I just wanted to point that out to everybody. That's not on you in any way, shape, or form. And so I don't have any questions. Can I get a receive and file? Moved by Carabelli, supported by Gillette. Please vote.
If I could add,
Sure.
I wanted to offer under the capital plan, if any commissioner is interested in taking a look at some of this equipment that we're referring to our projects, we'd be more than happy to make those arrangements.
You know, and I want you to know, I don't think any of us questions the need. I think the concern is that in our good times, we're not living within our budget, we're drawing down the fund equity. And if we're drawing down the fund equity in our good times, what are we going to do in our bad times? So we're becoming acutely aware that, guys, times are good and we can't stay within our budget, and we're starting to get a little nervous about that. So so I know that I do understand the needs, and I do think we should take a tour with you at some point, too. Thank you.
Not a virtual tour.
No, not a virtual. Well, I thought of servers as infrastructure, so when he said servers wasn't
And I didn't know
infrastructure.
what Jacob was talking about either.
Okay, so we're back to Information Technology Department. Jacob?
He's back. Well, Commissioners, I'll invite you on a virtual tour. Regarding our 2020 general fund budget, just want to mention a few things. One has been brought up earlier, and that is maintenance increased by $229,800. The major contributors for that is FTR, or for the record system, Google, Clio Fax Stream, which is a fax solution that we now use, WatchGuard, which is the cameras in the cars at the sheriff's office, NeoGov, used by HR, and then also the Warren E911 backup dispatch center. Those are pretty much the items that's responsible for that. Also, just want to mention regarding our capital outlay budget, you requested from us last year that the 4 contracts that we have with our contracting houses, that we go out and do an RFQ on that. We're in the process. It's unwritten right now. It should be, I think, the 24th or the 25th is the date that we're going to receive the bids back. So we will bring that to the board probably next month. So that's in process. And then regarding the capital outlay budget, same thing. I know, that is something we've discussed a lot. And beginning of this year, we had a committee that worked on how we can present that to you. And we would like to request and anticipate doing the same thing once everything is solidified and the budgets have been solidified, so we can come in front of you and give you all that information, so then we can make decisions to that effect again. Other than that, there's not very significant changes in our 2020 budget from 2019.
Okay, Commissioners, I don't see any speakers. Chair Smith.
Hi, Jaco.
Hi, Commissioner.
Just one question, and I'm sorry, I thought there were more speakers. Your contract services, when
Yeah.
you, that's going from 280 to 855,000. What's driving that? Am I missing something?
I'm not aware that that's happening.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Steve, if you're looking into it already, then we can hear about it at a
Yeah, I
different
think
time.
there's a mismatch, or I won't call it a mismatch, but there's $575,000 in 19 adopted, that the actual adopted budget has that amount in the capital outlay line item, so we need to kind of
So it should have
shift
been
things
in,
back and forth. It doesn't change the overall budget.
all right, so it's just in
there's-
the wrong spot?
It's those 4 contracts, basically, that Jaco's talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. But you're still going to clear that up
Yep.
and get, okay, thank you. Thanks.
Okay, and so I don't see any speakers. I think that there are some questions that we might have, if you don't mind. I was talking to Crystal about giving you a phone call and having a conversation on a couple of things that she could
Okay.
get back with us on.
Yep.
All right, thank you. So did I do a move? Okay. So moved by Duje, supported by Kraft, receive and file, please vote. That's because we're in a virtual building. Motion passes 10-0. Okay, so new business. Does anyone have any new business?